Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Koffman, a retired family doctor and clinical professor, the co-founder, executive vice president, and chief medical officer of the nonprofit CLL Society, and a 20-year CLL patient myself. And it's in that regard that I'm going to speak to you today, bringing you the latest blog post of my own CLL journey. This is a blog post that I title, "My CLL Hangs On by a Thread, Stopping Epcoritamab." And for those who've been following my story, they know I've said before that August 2025 marks 2 full years that I've enjoyed the benefit from my trial of Epcoritamab, a bispecific T-cell engaging monoclonal antibody for my CLL. But the last 2 cells of my chronic lymphocytic leukemia, or CLL, have remained stubbornly persistent for the last 1.5 years. I've been in a complete remission, CR, with normal blood counts, a normal physical exam, and all my lymph nodes shrunk back to normal size when imaged since February of 2024. That was only 6 months after starting the trial for my high risk, and when I say high risk, I mean deletion 17p, TP53 mutated, deletion 11q, complex karyotype, unmutated IGVH, Notch1, and more poor prognostic markers. That was my flavor of relapsed CLL. This rapid response that I saw in the first 6 months was reinforced when my testing for measurable residual disease, MRD, by next generation sequencing, specifically clonoSEQ, showed only 1 or less clonal CLL cells per million in my peripheral blood, and about 45 per million in the bone marrow. It seemed I was destined for a UMRD to the -6 or to less than 1 in a million, unmeasurable at 1 in a million remission. But sadly, the rapid fall in my tumor burden has not continued. A 1.5 years later, my CLL MRD testing in my bloodstream remains the same. So have the routine blood tests and scans. I'm still in a complete remission, but with detectable measurable residual disease by clonoSEQ at the level of less than 1 in a million. That's DMRD to the -6. What's new is the results are still unchanged through the end of July of 2025. There was 4 sequences of the genetic material from my cancer measured. 1 stayed the same at undetectable, couldn't be found even in 1 in a million cells. 1 stayed the same that was found at less than 1 per million cell, and 2 moved from being found at 1 in a million cells to less than 1 in a million cells. But still, this is essentially the same, stable. As far as I know, I am the only one in the trial who has achieved a complete remission without also reaching undetectable measurable disease to the -6. So close, but not there. So I'm not sure what the benefits of continuing to flog my T cells with the bispecific antibody to kill my cancer will do. I'm also not sure what harm it might be doing. I do know that my good B cells are missing in action as they are directly targeted by Epcoritamab. I know that my T cell subsets are low and that I likely have very exhausted T cells and therefore ineffective T cells by the 2 years of them being called into action to kill all my B cells, cancerous or not. Not surprisingly, with no B cells and iffy T cell counts and iffy T cell activity, early data shows infections are the leading cause of death in my trial. I also know that once I go off the trial, it will be hard to restart Epcoritamab, quote, off-label, close quote, as no bispecific is yet approved in CLL should I need it again, including Epcoritamab. Psychologically, Epcoritamab has been my security blanket. I feel like I'm doing something by staying in this trial. But am I really? It was hard for me to stop my ibrutinib when I did, but I did fine for years after. My past experience with relapse helps predict the future. Once my CLL reached 1 per million cells in the blood after my CAR T, I was starting a new therapy choice. I was staring at a new therapy choice in less than 2 years. That treatment was Epcoritamab. Will it take off faster this time? The timing of when I need treatment must be near perfect, as I almost certainly will be looking to a clinical trial for knocking back my recurrent clone. Will there be a degrader or a new BCL2 inhibitor or a dual inhibitor or a combo trial that I could use when I need it? Still, most bispecifics, when used in other lymphomas, are taken for a fixed duration, such as 2 years, not forever. I thought last month I would be stopping, but I stopped the cordyceps instead on Dr. Danilov's advice, with a plan to recheck my T cells at my next visit. Regardless, I'd be surprised if I continue on Epcoritamab any longer. Despite a rough takeoff with cytokine release syndrome, CRS, and adverse events over the first rocky 2 months, it has brought me 2 great years of a deep remission and a chance for a long glide off therapy. I'm very grateful for the trial and for the team that has cared for me, led by Dr. Danilov, trial nurse Alex, and GemMab, the manufacturers, for their flexibility and diligence in making this all possible. I hope, but I'm uncertain, that others with CLL will be able to enjoy similar benefits. More on that on a future blog post here and at bkoffman.blogspot.com, where I'll also be bringing you the latest news on CLL and important interviews with researchers in CLL. Thanks for listening. Take care. Dr. Brian Koffman.